Well, hello, dear listeners. Good morning. Really, you are still here. Episode 4. Come on, let's start. Privacy in the modern age. We'll talk about how we navigate our personal boundaries in a highly connected world. We are living in the age of data. So, what's at stake? Every time we interact with digital services online, or even we interact with physical services in a surveilled shop, we are generating data. When we are looking at aisles on a shop, someone is watching you. They are trying to see where you look, how you look at those items, which items are more likely to be purchased. So they'll put some items on the lower shelf, some items on the upper shelf to persuade you to buy their most favorite SKUs. They will try to put some items near the checkout so that you will quickly buy them as an impulse purchase. So you are being monitored and you are being kind of persuaded to buy something, or you are being persuaded to act on an external input in the physical world as well. Of course, when we do any transaction in the digital world, we are being tracked by cookies, we are being tracked by many instrumentation and telemetry which is present on the web pages, which carry the data on our interaction, our login information, social affiliation, and more. So the scope of data collection is vast, as you could have guessed. I've just given one example of a detail in physical world and website browsing in a digital world, but this just goes on and on. So with the data comes the other side of the coin, privacy. The definition of privacy is changing. In the digital age, the concept of privacy has evolved. So what does privacy mean when we are spending a lot of time online? People spend more than 4 to 5 hours on their phone every day across multiple applications. Some of them a bit lesser focused on privacy as others. This leads to some concerns about how we can keep our things private, our interactions, our media, our photographs, our private family conversations, right? And it's also about controlling who has access to our information. It's okay that when you are going out for a vacation to put photos on an album and share it with a family member, but it's very essential to keep an eye on who you are sharing it with. It's to a person, not a common link open to all that anyone can click and access and download, right? These simple things, because in a rush of movement, we may not see that who we are sharing this with, or even whether these photos are appropriate to be shared. But it's essential for the apps to remind you that this album has been shared in public, or this album has been shared for too long. Do you want this link to be deactivated? These kind of gentle nudges do help in terms of bringing a semblance of control and privacy to people in the age of data. The next part of the current podcast, or today's podcast, actually, we'll talk about the trade-off between convenience and privacy. And absolute privacy will make it very inconvenient for us to enter a password all the time when we visit our websites. So we usually want to have a trade-off. Moving from passwords to secure passwords was a natural evolution, but a lot of people will still use same password at multiple places, or just simple variants, or very simple alphabets and numbers. So in comes pass keys, which are a bit more secure, but still not as secure as the hardware encryption, but they are more convenient, definitely, as compared to entering passwords. That convenience then comes at a cost, because we are some passkeys or some convenient login mechanisms are now not agnostic across device ecosystems. So if you are focused towards an Android ecosystem or towards an Apple ecosystem, you may want to use a password manager or a service that works across different ecosystem and maybe a Windows computer. So that becomes very essential, so that you don't have to manually key in something or manually store something in a browser or an unsecured app, your passwords, or definitely never store it in a notepad. So the trade-off between convenience and privacy is essential, but that trade-off can be not at the cost of privacy. A very good example is using biometric login, face identification. Most applications on an Apple app store, they allow you to enable biometric login, and that ensures that you can quickly log in and log out. You can lock the application after a certain amount of time. So, and next time, if it's easier to unlock, then you will set up locking mechanism because you are not hassled. Next segment is who controls our data. When we are interacting in digital world or in physical world, and if someone is measuring us digitally and physically all the time, so is my data mine? So if someone stands on a weighing scale on an analog, non-tech, just simple weighing scale and sees their weight, it's just information. They may write it on a piece of paper and then step down from the weighing scale. But if it's a digital weighing scale, the data gets pushed to a health application, to an airline application, and then they try to use that to guess how much airfare to charge or what kind of diseases this person may have, and then maybe what kind of treatment packages can be offered or what kind of insurance be withheld from this person, and on and on and on. And all the time, while that person might just be holding in a bag, or that might have added to person's weight. You never know, right? And that's just a very simple example of standing on a weighing scale. Imagine how much data we generate through connected applications, through smart wearables, which store data and which try to create telemetry. And then that telemetry is used to measure and analyze and then push advertisements and recommendations to people. So very essential to ask who controls our data, because big tech does have access to our data and they own the data. They sometimes process the data as well. Second is government. Government, for ensuring law and order, often does surveillance through cameras, through digital surveillance mechanisms on data passing through government territory or a particular geographic territory. Encryption, decryption of data, looking for particular patterns. So those measures of government surveillance also occur. So on one hand, while government is surveilling us, on the first hand, the big tech is surveilling us. So literally every time we generate data, someone is trying to capture it, analyze it, and trying to generate meaning out of it. Of course, it goes via media. There are data brokers who gather data, analyze data, and then share data and sell data. And this is just not just health data, not just shopping cart data, retail data, your credit data, your bank defaults, your bank account balances, everything. They are subject of scrutiny as surveillance increases. So question is, who owns and who controls our data? It's very essential, because in the age of cyber attacks, not having secure safeguards with people who are controlling our data can lead to our data getting misused, our aggregated non-anonymized data getting misused. So it becomes very critical for people who control our data to ensure that they have adequate security measures. The fourth segment is how to protect your privacy. So very practical steps for privacy protection. Use a passcode, at least on your mobile device. Definitely not use simple mobile number combinations or simple date of birth combinations. Use a secure combination that you can remember. Use biometric if you can, especially mobile phones or mobile devices that have a secure hardware enclave where they can store a copy of your biometric so that it can, and even if there is an outage or if there is an issue with no access to biometrics, or you forgot your password, you can still use some other hardware identification methodology to use and access that device. Use end-to-end encrypted communication tools. Use HTTPS on browsers while banking. It ensures that your banking activity is protected and your account is safeguarded against any malicious actors. Definitely limit the data that you share across apps and services. If your photographs are being accessed by multiple applications all the time, which do not need access to those photographs for that time, you can limit which photographs you allow access, because most of us have like the hundreds of photographs on a photo library, but then after taking a photograph, we edit it, we clean it, and then we upload that picture. So if you have say 100 photographs on your phone and only 5 photographs are like beautifully edited, you know what I'm talking about. Like, we don't put our natural photographs. We only upload those photographs where we appear the prettiest. That's the reason maybe I don't upload much pictures, because my face is best suited for radio or podcasting, especially audio podcasting. Jokes aside. So if say out of 100 only 4-5 photographs are the prettiest which you will ever share on internet to get the maximum engagement or likes or whatever, then only give access to those 5 photographs. There's no point giving access to 95 photographs, right? Common sense. So limit access to those data points. Similarly, limit access to your own files like health files, prescriptions, and whatnot. Ask whenever an application asks for a doctor's prescription or a medical bill, that why do you want access? Where are you storing it? How are you storing it? Report to government if you feel that a particular companies or firms are misusing data. That helps in terms of protecting other citizens from any potential loss or damages. It's very essential. If you see something wrong, report it. Digital hygiene, definitely very essential to ensure that you keep your passwords updated, you don't share your personal data online. We'll balance transparency and security. We talked about balancing privacy with convenience. We'll now talk about balancing transparency and security. So while companies that prioritize ethical data practices, like Apple's approach to privacy, these should be highlighted. People should put a lot of emphasis on privacy, and the companies that have greater emphasis on security and privacy. The future of privacy in AI and facial recognition is still not clear. There's a lot of potential impact when the encryption algorithms get cracked by quantum computers. Of course, the quantum safe storage devices have come, but we still don't know what the future of privacy looks like. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in the comments, and I'll try to answer them. There are some certain stories when I was listening to a professor at IIM Indore when he talked about taking a class in a country abroad, and all his notes were stolen from his bag, I think at an airport or at an office, and he had made meticulous notes, paper notes. So while we may feel that what does that matter? How does it matter? It's just notes. But the point is someone tries to access your data, your thoughts, and that impacts your ability to deliver your performance. So that also matters, right? So securing your data, securing your thoughts in a digital mechanism, I feel is better rather than writing it on a piece of paper, which you can misplace. While writing on paper is still good, but maybe writing on devices is better. Thank you. That was today's episode. Couple of closing thoughts. Please take control of your digital identity and maintain your personal information securely. Hope you liked today's episode. Just one more thing, a big thanks to all of you for the love and affection showed for the first 3 episodes. Let's give all of you a big hand. The stats of this podcast are off the charts. A large number of repeated listeners coming in. I appreciate that. I have a second podcast called In Conversation With. It started in 2018 and it's hosted on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Unlike this podcast, which is hosted specifically and exclusively on YouTube, that podcast is hosted on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Do go and check out that podcast In Conversation With and send your reviews. Just leave some comments or reviews there. There's only one such comment and that comment is 5 years old. So it will feel great if you can rate my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So the question is, how would you find those podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify? So the best way is if you go to the show notes of this show, which is bit.ly. So it is bit.ly/man Naval. I'll spell it out. bit.ly/MAAN then Naval, NAVAL. You will find a bunch of links at the bottom of the page. Those links are for Apple Podcasts, for Spotify, and actually some links are there from SoundCloud as well. Some very older episodes are hosted on SoundCloud. So do go there, check those episodes out, share your comments, share your feedback, share your inputs. Thank you so much. Peace out.